Happy Thursday, everybody. We are live with Mr. Joel Fisher back again from
Everybody.
Scarecrow Video. Joel, thanks for doing this.
Hell, hey, thanks for asking me. It's great. It's a little bit surreal since I've watched so many times, but I'm enjoying it.
I'm glad. I'm glad. I'm so glad that you wanted to come back after the first time. Before we get too deep into it, friend of the chat that's always here, Mr. Daniel Sibner. It is his birthday tonight. So hello and happy birthday, Daniel.
Happy birthday.
He says, best way to celebrate a birthday is to talk about physical media with all of us. Can't believe you're here with us. Dustin gave a $4.99 chat. Thank you for that. Good evening, everyone. Come for Ryan, staying for Joel and the Scarecrows. And man, I would stay for the Scarecrows anytime. It's going to be a great night. Joel, you are here as a representative of Scarecrow Video, and tonight I really want to highlight one thing for everybody. Going across the bottom of your screen, you'll see a link here to donate to Scarecrow Video. This is the best way that you can support Scarecrow right now. They're trying to raise quite a bit of money to keep it going. They're a nonprofit, as you may have heard about in my recent conversation with Joel, and they always need money to sustain. It's not like they're here to make millions. They just have a lot of overhead. I mean, operating in downtown Seattle, curating a collection of 4.3 million pieces or 150,000, whatever it is. There's so many pieces that you have to spend a lot just for real estate. That's a big thing, but also the amount of people that donate their time is a big thing. So please consider giving to Scarecrow. This is a really important part for me and for Joel, obviously. It's super close to both of our hearts, so consider giving, please.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as a nonprofit, we really do depend on the generosity of people that, like to support what we do and want to keep it going because it's a very unique collection. And the people that are there to curate it and help kind of navigate people through it are amazing people that have, some of them have been there longer than me, like over 20 years, over 30 years. So there's a lot of passion there. No one who does it to get, I mean, we don't make anything. So we just do it because we love it. We love the people.
Being there over 30 years is crazy. I love it. I love that somebody is crazy enough to do that.
Yeah, in fact, last week was the 35th anniversary of the opening of the original Scarecrow video. So
Wow.
pretty cool.
Wow, perfect timing. We just talked about our previous conversation. If you have not watched it after the live show tonight, please go back and watch Joel's conversation. We dive deep into the history of Scarecrow to Joel's history, and one of the things we talked about is the film American Astronaut. And Sardus here in the chat says, "Hey Joel, I found a copy of American Astronaut at a used bookstore for
Nice.
$12 today. Thanks for bringing the film to my attention."
I hope you dig it. It's a really good find. So I mean, even if you don't, you can probably make some money off it. But it's just a great film. I hope I didn't talk it up too much. It's better to go in cold, but it's not really like anything else.
That's awesome. Uh, Ronnie says, really enjoyed my interview with Daisuke. Thank you, Ronnie. If everybody has not seen it or saw my link, I was on Daisuke's channel. He was on Reconnected about it's like 6 weeks ago now at this point. And it was a long, fun conversation. I'd give that one a watch if you're into it. Gosh, there's a lot of stuff going on, and I really just can't wait to dive into everything. So how about some recent pickups, Joel? Anything that you've got in physical media wise you want to talk about?
Yeah, this one came out a little bit ago, but I finally got in my Todd Slaughter box.
Jealous.
I've only
Nice.
seen one of these, so I'm looking forward to diving in because that was a good one. Murder in the Red Barn was the one I saw, but most of the editions have been pretty bad throughout
Right.
the history. So this one is going to be nice. Very excited.
Everybody that has got it in the Discord already seems to be very happy with what they've been watching.
Yeah, I don't know when I'm going to find the time, but I'm looking forward to it when I do. And
Go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. Yeah, I got a couple today actually. So this one just came out. I got Weird,
Oh,
the Al
nice.
Yankovic story on 4K. I mean, it's Weird Al. You can't
Right.
go wrong. It's just fun. I always want to support Weird Al. And if Shout's listening, we should have some UHF on 4K pretty soon, I think.
Yes, please. Please, please, please. Deaf Crocodile just said they shared the donation link on their Twitter for Scarecrow.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you so much.
The Todd Slaughter films are only 65 minutes, easy to fit in. That is nice. That's a big help.
I love it. Yeah, I love 70 or less minutes. That's kind of the sweet spot to me.
It is the sweet spot. Yeah, we're going to talk about the Sony Australia thing tonight for sure. Okay, recent for me. One thing I want to highlight: MVD sent in Mondo, New York, from their MVD Rewind line. This is for review. I can't wait to watch this. I love weird little documentaries like this, and it was one that I could not wait to pick up. And then I have always loved this one, and I don't think I've seen anybody else pick up Valley Girl from Eureka. This release,
oh, nice, yeah.
It's such a nice release for this movie. Like it's not 4K, but hey, this will probably be the best that we get for a while at least. And it's a wonderful movie. What do you think of Valley Girl?
Valley Girl's great. It's just super fun. Yeah, I forgot that Eureka was doing it, but that's just really cool.
Yeah, and reminder for everybody that always forgets on Eureka, free shipping worldwide from Eureka. Don't know how they do it, but even if you only pick up one title, you get free shipping from the UK to anywhere in the world. How do they pay for that, Joel?
I don't know, because international shipping is pretty darn expensive at this point. Like as expensive as just buying the disc, probably in a lot of cases. So I don't know how they can do that. That's amazing. I have taken advantage of that in the past, I have to say.
It's definitely worth it. One other thing that I really want to highlight, it's not really a physical media pickup, but last week I showed that I met Kate, the president of the board of Scarecrow Video, and she brought this bag along with this shirt inside. That is amazing. You can pick up the shirt right now if you donate. I believe it's $150, right?
That's correct.
And it also had a bunch of little stickers, which I am going to definitely use. My pride and joy, though, this is going on my Christmas tree tonight after our show. Cannot wait to make this a part of the yearly tradition. I love it. So thank you, and thank Kate for all of that on my behalf, because it's really fantastic. She was an amazing person.
Absolutely. I mean, and thank you for all the help that you've had promoting, and just your enthusiasm for physical media. All things physical media is just amazing, and your tireless efforts.
I do my best. It is it's a painstaking world, as nothing ever ends, it seems like, except for, as we'll talk about, some things in Australia. But it seems like that might be shifting around a little bit, as opposed to what we had posted earlier. Last thing I wanted to talk about, if anybody was interested in the Physical Media Advocate, the physical version, but didn't want to use Amazon, email me. I got some extra ones. I can send you a copy myself. I got everything picked up this week. However many people want them, let me know. I'll get you one in the mail. We'll do like $15 shipped, and it'll be good. Covers all my cost and everything. Don't make anything on it. Just covering cost. That's it. Appreciate that. All right. What about some recent watches, Joel? I know you have all the time in the world to watch stuff.
Amazingly, I did have a little bit of time to watch some things. But there was just so many things coming out this week that I was sort of spoiled for choice, so I had to narrow it down. I did watch, because I was very curious about the quality of the disc, the Horrors of the Black Museum, the VCI Blu-ray release from this week, and it's good. It looked great.
Good.
I mean, VCI, they're not the best with the quality. I kind of have a soft spot for them, because they're one of the only people that are releasing like serials and like just weird kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, they're just old school. I think that they're kind of got lost in the dust with a lot of the quality of the boutique labels. They're from way back in the day. They started out with film prints and tapes and stuff. So hopefully, this is a sign of things to come, and their Blu-rays are more improved. But it was great. It's a fun movie. I mean, if anyone hasn't seen it, you should check it out. It's super silly, and definitely watch the intro with Hypnovision. It's a hypnotist talking about the film, although it really doesn't have anything to do with hypnotism, actually. But the introduction is really interesting and funny, and it just makes me long for the days of these kind of silly gimmicks that they would try to tie in to bring people into things.
I was just about to bring that up. I long for like a resurgence in the William Castle type, or the crazy Vincent Price hosted intros to something, and they make something extra scary. Like that would be so much fun nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, if places are looking to try to draw people out, make a special kind of experience, you got to give them something interesting, something unique. But I think that's more about, like the personal touch and the showman, and that's just kind of lost as far as presentation for cinema just in general, because
Yeah.
everything is so corporate now.
Sardis, the one that bought that movie earlier, we were talking about that. He says, Joel, are there any photos of the inventory from Scarecrow on the web to see? Love to see libraries of physical media.
I don't know if we have any on the news site because honestly, I haven't spent a lot of time navigating to all the
I don't think
parts.
so.
I think there's stuff on like Yelp and TripAdvisor and some of those kind of sites. I don't know. I can try to scrounge some pictures and share them with folks in a Discord or wherever would be best.
That'd be fun. Definitely be fun. Another key Discord moment. If you want a part of that, Patreon link in the description below. Look at that. Thanks for the promo, Joel. Recent watches. I had an interesting week in the last week. I got sick over this last weekend, so I haven't watched anything new this week. But last week, I made the. I've had some people make fun of my decisions of watching certain movies with my mom or my wife, and I sat them down last week and had them watch Larry Clark's Kids for the first time. And
Ah, yeah, okay. I don't think I would be doing that, but
what'd you think of Kids, Joel?
it's been a long time since I've seen it. It's probably been since it came out. I don't know. I'm not a big Larry Clark fan. I feel like, yeah, he's not really for me too much.
I get that.
But, I appreciate that he does what he does. And I should
Uh,
probably watch it since it's been a long time.
it's it had been a long time for me, and for some reason, I remember there being much more like depicted on screen. The
Hmm.
movie's really only shocking because of the dialogue.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I haven't seen it since, it was new, but maybe with the passage of time, uh, it seemed shocking at the time, but now it's quaint in comparison a little bit. I don't know.
The big thing is hearing kids that age speak like that. I'm sure was quite shocking with the
Yeah.
pearl clutchers.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty realistic as far as uh, that kind of thing goes. I know that he was kind of exaggerating things a bit, but kids they are pretty vulgar.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was definitely vulgar a little bit back then. Not as vulgar as that, but yeah, I could see that being accurate. And obviously, the storylines are pretty crazy for not expecting it. But yeah, I definitely chose to watch it with my mom. My mom and my wife both appreciate movies. They've watched literally everything else with me, so why not just continue it with Larry Clark's Kids? It seemed like a good time. It it wasn't as good as I remember, but hey, I'm glad I watched it again.
Hmm.
Let's see. Anything coming up at Scarecrow we should highlight before we go into announcements?
Well, so we have the fundraiser going on, and we actually have a online series called Zeitgeist, where I think once a month or a couple times a month there's a speaker talking about topical sort of things about related to film from different perspectives. And so, unfortunately, this I think is going to coincide with when you're on. But on the 28th at 7 p.m. is the last one of the year, and it's called "What's Wrong with Hollywood" with Trina Griffin from Rising Reels. So that should be pretty interesting. You can read more about that on our website, scarecrowvideo.org. And that's just one of the kind of series of things that we can do with the help of people donating. Um, Before COVID happened, we were able to get a lot of grants and different things to support some of these programs, but it's been
Yeah.
really hard since then to really do that. So we've been kind of, keeping it going by ourselves. And we like to have, these different voices be able to speak on these topics and kind of highlight that. And, that's free all the time to anyone. And so, check it out if you can. And hopefully we'll be able to continue doing that into the next year as well.
And that, I mean, that's just another reminder for the banner that's going across the bottom. If you want to support things like this that are free for the community, that you can access here from the comfort of your home, wherever you are in the world, make sure you give that link a visit tonight and give as much or as little as you can. It's a really important structure in the physical media community, and I mean, Scarecrow's been there longer than most, and hopefully we'll be there longer than many others that will fall out in due time.
Hmm.
All right.
Well, hey, before we continue, I
Yeah.
just want to say another thing that I watched. We did get in the recent Vinegar Syndrome stuff, and
Ooh.
so I couldn't wait to dive into the Lost Films
Yeah.
collection. And uh, I watched a couple, but what I want to really highlight is the documentary on there, Against
Nice.
the Grain. Everyone should immediately watch that. It's a fantastic documentary. It'll give you a really great perspective about what it takes to, discover lost films and how to take care of the films that are in disrepair and at risk. It's just
Wow.
really fascinating to see, what all goes into that and how hard these people work on it. So, uh, I would actually recommend maybe watching that before you watch any of the movies, just to get you a better perspective,
Mm,
because a lot of these movies, they're independent, they're not necessarily that well made in a traditional sense, but they have value. And if you go into them with the right perspective, you'll probably get a lot more out of it. And I think that the documentary talks about, just even the process of like how you're even able to see that. So going from that point of view might make people notice some more things or appreciate it. The stuff that I watched looked great, considering that they have been unavailable for so long. But they go more into that in the documentary about where the prince came from and uh, the condition and all of that. So highly recommended.
had you seen Elijah Drenner's other documentaries before this one?
I haven't, no.
Okay, so he's the one that did the Dick Miller documentary and
Hmm.
American Grindhouse, and from what I hear, those, which a lot of people, especially the Dick Miller one, it's a very high quality documentary, and supposedly Against the Grain is way better than both of those, which is saying something because those were already very high quality.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic, and I thought they did a pretty good job of kind of going through uh, like the process of what's happened over time. It's really interesting too. Um, they actually focus a bit on Something Weird Video, which they're based
Um,
outside of Seattle as well,
yeah,
and they were pretty much integral in saving a lot of the elements and a lot of these films at a time when they were extremely vulnerable. No one really cared about this kind of stuff. The filmmakers didn't even care about it. They just kind of made them to make a couple bucks and they're disposable. But Mike Brainey just would seek out these films all over the place, and in doing that, then he would get the films out there on tape, and and get interest in these things. So a lot of the people that went into these different boutique labels and stuff, they got into it through Something Weird. Something Weird is kind of like the grandfather of all of that stuff.
yeah.
So they're not really around anymore in their normal incarnation, but Lisa is still, working with a lot of other labels to try to get that stuff out there, and she's doing an awesome job.
Yeah, Lisa Petrucci is incredible. I mean, I don't think anybody would have faulted her if after Mike's death she just kind of stopped and took time and did what she needed to do. But man, she has continued to dedicate and plug away and advocate for everything under the sun.
Yeah, it's astounding. She's just super generous with her time, and she's super knowledgeable about everything. And so, I give her all the credit in the world for keeping the legacy going on, because I I think that he didn't really get to see everything kind of fulfilled at the point where we're now, where a lot of these films can be seen in the best possible quality. You can use digital tools to make them look better than uh, you could even have imagined watching them, and just the really not great VHS transfers.
Yeah, and now some of those are coming out on Blu-ray and everything. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big deal. Stan says, "Where can we see Against the Grain?" Against the Grain is the documentary that came in that 10-film Lost Films box set from Vinegar Syndrome as part of their Black Friday slate. So as of right now, at least, that is the only place to get the Against the Grain documentary. And speaking of Lisa Petrucci, if you are interested in hearing more about her and her story, I just posted a link in the chat. Open this in a new tab, and afterwards, listen to the podcast episode of They Live by Film with Lisa Petrucci, and just be mesmerized. She has an incredible legacy that she's seen go through decades with Mike, and just continuing to be a major part of all of this. Highly recommend just supporting and paying attention to everything that she puts her mind and time and energy and money into, because it's generally a noble cause.
Absolutely.
All right, so that brings us to our discussion for the night, which it's December, and it's crazy, but we are looking at, not this weekend obviously, but next weekend is already Christmas Eve and Christmas. And first off, not even close to ready. I've been far too busy.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
beyond that, it's a wonderful time to talk about holiday films. And first thing, we're going to run through some of the like cliche ones that we love, that we've watched for a long time. I'm going to talk too much about Muppets Christmas Carol like I always do. And
That's
we're going
impossible.
to I love that you're here for this. We're going to dive into some of these, and then on top of that, then we're going to talk about some of the underseen ones that they may be popular, they may be obscure, but either way, they're ones that people just plain don't talk about enough for holiday films. So, some of the cliche titles, Joel. What are some of the ones that you really dive into?
Uh, you can't go wrong with It's a Wonderful Life. I've always loved that movie. I've kind of gotten a little burnout on it, because for about 10 years I was a projectionist at a local theater who plays that movie every December for the last 65 years on 35 millimeters. So I've seen it quite a lot, but it still makes me cry every time at the very end, because it's just such a beautiful movie. But what's some other good ones? I like Gremlins. That's more of in the horror realm, but it's just a fun movie, and it does feel super Christmassy,
It
to
is, yeah.
me. Um, uh, I usually try to watch at least some version of A Christmas Carol. There's a lot of good ones. You're going to talk about the Muppet one. That's a great one, but there's so many different ones, and they all bring something different to the table. So, yeah. Oh, there's just so much stuff.
What about any of like the very cliche rom-coms that are made for the holiday time? Any of those that you love?
No, not really. That's not my that's not my thing, unfortunately. I'm not against that, but that's not what I tend towards.
You're not a Love Actually guy then, huh? I'm just kidding.
I've never seen Love Actually. So I should probably watch it at some point, but like I've just never been in the place that I'm like, this is the time to do it,
Right.
Sometimes you just have to be like, I feel like it's the right time to actually finally watch this thing that I've never watched and probably should.
I will say, I finally watched it a few years ago. I don't understand how Love Actually is so popular. I really don't. I
Well,
can get into some of the rom-coms. This one alone, like I don't get how this one is the one.
well, that's kind of what's been keeping me away from it, because So I've seen the popularity kind of tracked from being at Scarecrow, where like no one cared about it and it wouldn't ever rent until like we needed to have 10 copies for some reason because everybody wanted to rent it for Christmas,
Right.
which is crazy to me. But every person that I've actually talked to about it said it's not good. So, I don't get it either. And I haven't seen it, so I can't really judge.
Um, yeah, it's just not good. My go-to, like if I'm gonna watch a cliche Christmas rom-com, I really liked The Holiday with Jack Black and I think it's Cameron Diaz and a couple others. Like Jack Black being in a cheesy rom-com, that alone was appealing by itself.
I've heard lots of good ones about that. It's like at first when I heard that I didn't quite believe it, but I've heard it enough to now start to believe it. So I haven't seen that one either, but maybe that's one I should put on my list for this year.
It's worth it. It's definitely a fun one, and it's not off-putting as a rom-com like many of them can be.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, Muppets Christmas Carol. I have to evangelize for a minute. If you're gonna choose one of the Christmas Carol adaptations and you've never seen that, this needs to be the year to watch it. If you have streaming, Disney Plus seems to be the best way to watch it because they have the full thing intact now with the missing song and all that. Which God, please release that on 4K soon,
Yeah, it's
please.
been a few years now, and they still haven't done it. So who knows? Maybe they're starting to turn the tide on some of that, but who knows? I
Yeah.
I would definitely get that.
I still think it's the best Muppets film, which is saying a lot considering how great that first Muppets movie is.
Hmm.
Uh, but man, I thinking about that now. When are we going to get all the other Muppets treats on Blu-ray or 4K? Like Muppets Treasure Island, that would be an incredible release.
I don't know. Like Sony's doing Muppets Take Manhattan, but like that's it. And
I
we
think
need
that's the
more of
only
the
one Sony
Muppets.
has the rights to at the moment, which is odd.
Exactly. So it's just we just run up against Disney again, who is
Yeah.
unfortunately just so stubborn and doesn't really care about making money off of the things that they own for whatever reason. But yeah, I mean the original Muppet movie, I would immediately go for a 4K of that. I love that movie. I've never get sick of that movie.
Never.
And they already have the full 4K uncut Muppet
Yep.
Christmas Carol, as you said. So why not? I mean, that's one that every year, every Christmas, they can just sell the hell out of it.
Oh yeah. Other cliche ones. Elf is an easy pick right now, especially with kids. It's one I discovered a newfound love for watching with my two little ones over the last couple years. It's a fun one. Off the wall stuff like Home Alone is always good. I was the perfect age for when Home Alone came out.
Yeah, I totally remember when that came out, and I think I saw it in the theater like 3 or 4 times, and it was just it was so huge. Like it was like everybody wanted to see that movie, and it was I don't know. It's hard to think about that now because there isn't really a lot of stuff like that that takes
Right.
over and is like such a mesh. Like that thing was like in theaters for like a year or something ridiculous, and like it would every once in a while like resurge and somehow like go higher up in the box office. It's just fascinating to think about that now when stuff if it doesn't do well within a week or two it's just gone.
And then so popular that the Talk Boy that was in the movie was made into a real product after the film because
Yeah,
everybody wanted it.
exactly.
Um, Horror movies with Christmas. So obviously there's a lot of them. For my underseen titles tonight, I think I have one or maybe two that are horror. I kind of wanted to stay away from this because we tend to talk about those a lot. Um,
Yeah.
uh, for the not so obvious ones, I will say if you've never watched Christmas Evil, that is a really great pick in my opinion. It is
Hmm.
probably the most realistic, like gritty evil Santa movie, and it's damn good for what it is.
Christmas Evil is amazing, and like that's one that like I saw, and then upon rewatches, it's like gotten better and better to me.
Yeah.
The main performance of the guy, the crazy Santa guy, is so good, and it's so like sympathetic in an interesting way. It's not really like a normal slasher though. It's just like a weird character study of a guy who's obsessed with Santa Claus. and it's sort of charming in a strange way, but it's also
Yep.
just like off the rails and deranged as well. And the ending is just so fantastic and out of there. But yeah, that's one I've started to watch more and more. Uh, so I definitely second that recommendation.
Deadly Games Dial Code Santa Claus. This is another really good pick that Vinegar Syndrome put out a couple years ago. Very fun take that everybody always compares to Home Alone, which they're very, very different films. Uh,
Yeah, they're not really the same, particularly.
no,
There's like a tiny similarity, but to say that Home Alone kind of stole the idea from it
right.
is a little bit of a stretch.
A lot of bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
There's also just a shout out to a lot of anthologies. There's a lot of random ass Christmas anthologies that are pretty damn good. I know that everybody's talking about December this year because Culture Shock put that out.
Hmm.
There's quite a few of them though. There's also a lot that are really terrible. I've never loved the Silent Night, Deadly Night movies. I don't get the fascination with them. Um,
They're all right, but yeah, I guess they were just like the first one was so notorious when it came out and it kind
yeah,
of got a reputation. I think that has held over. And then the sequels are just kind of coasting on that. The
yeah.
second one, of course, is so insanely absurd that that's kind of like generated its own second life. Uh, and that's fun. But yeah, that's a really weird series, definitely.
Especially when you start getting to the 3, 4, and 5 of it all. It's not the same thing at all.
Yeah, they're well, like the fifth one is like Mickey Rooney as the toy
Yes.
maker. That's really a strange film.
Yeah, that's it's a fun one. Okay. So, that is some of our cliche picks. Let's start getting to our underseen stuff. We both made a list of 5. I have a couple extra after that to highlight that didn't quite make my list that I wouldn't mind talking about. But since you're the guest, Joel, you want to talk about the first one?
Sure. Yeah. So my first one is I have it right here. Remember the Night.
Nice.
That's 1939 with directed by Mitchell Lyson and written by Preston Sturgis. So it's like kind of a comedy, but with a lot of drama in it, and takes place at Christmas. Basically, Barbara Stanwyck is a criminal, and Fred McMurray is works for the district attorney, and he's prosecuting her. He gets the case postponed till after Christmas because it's harder to prosecute people at Christmas time. Uh, and then he kind of feels bad about that, so he gets Barbara Stanwyck out of jail. He doesn't want her to have to spend Christmas in jail. But she doesn't have anywhere to go, and so they end up traveling together to Indiana, where they're both from, uh, and it's just kind of them getting to see different aspects of life. She's from a harder upbringing, and he's from like a really nurturing upbringing, and just kind of getting empathy and meeting different people to kind of give them a different perspective. So that's really interesting. Uh, and Barbara Stanwyck and Fred McMurray are fantastic together. Obviously, they have really good chemistry. This was the first time they were paired together. And 5 years later, they would do Double Indemnity, which people know a lot more than that, which is a very different film. And Stanwyck is very different in that film as well. But it's pretty fun. It's Preston Sturgis, so you got a lot of weird side characters, a lot of
Right.
just silly business going on, which is nice. Um, Barbara Stanwyck is fantastic. I mean, Barbara Stanwyck is always fantastic, but like just some of the looks that she gives, or just like some of the reactions in this, are just like heartbreaking. She's just so great, um, and it is fun to contrast that with something where she's just like so completely like hard bitten in like Dumb Indemnity, or she just has a lot of range. She can be like super funny or really dramatic. So something like this that swings both ways is really nice. Um, there's one little part that's there's a little bit of kind of like stereotypical African American servant kind of character in the beginning in a
Right.
couple scenes, which is, I just want to make sure to mention because it's off-putting. It's not great. It's typical for things at the time, but that
Sadly.
doesn't really excuse it. Just want to give people that aren't really familiar with that,
Right.
a heads up because it's sort of completely unnecessary and just really takes you out of it. Um, and I don't want anyone to go in cold and just see that because it's very cringeworthy.
Like many of the time.
Yes, exactly.
All right, my first one is one that is a lot less of a deep cut than Joel's, and many people will bring this up this year, but I still think it's underseen because so many people are put off by one of the two subgenres that it falls in, and that is 2017's Anna and the Apocalypse. Um, a zombie movie set around Christmas sounds amazing, but when you make it a musical, many horror fans don't ever want to watch it. And Anna and the Apocalypse is not only a great zombie apocalypse movie, it is an incredible musical. The songs in this are a lot of fun. The choreography that they do is stupendous. Second Sight put this out a handful of years ago before they turned into the giant label that they are now, and they put out a booklet with all of the lyrics to all the songs. It's an astonishingly good film, very underseen, still very British film. The musical aspect, though, is what has kept people away from this. And don't be like that. Musicals are great, and this one especially. If you are anywhere associated with horror, or if you like the zombie apocalypse genre at all, this is one of the better picks. And the fact that it's a holiday movie throws it over the top for being just so enjoyable and one of those like weird. This is a kitschy genre film, but it kind of feels cozy just because it's something that you can feel at home with, like you've been watching it for years, even though it's only from 2017. Love this movie. People need to check it out. Curious if you've seen this one.
Yeah, it's a super fun movie, and it actually it coheses very well together, despite having all the different elements. You'd think
Yeah.
that it necessarily wouldn't work, but it actually really does. And I want to echo the sentiment of, like, people are turned off by musicals. I don't know if it's the fact that it's so unrealistic, or they just don't like music, or whatever. But musicals, I mean, they're just like anything. There's a huge diversity of them, so you're going to find some amazing ones, and you're going to find some ones that are less amazing. But don't just completely disregard the entire subgenre of that stuff. And if you like zombie movies, this is a good entree into that to can try some new.
Dude says, my wife loves musicals and zombies. I hate musicals, and I'm hit and miss on zombies, but I love non-traditional Christmas films. Is it streaming? It is. It's on Shutter at the moment. So yes, it is very, very good. I highly recommend that one. All right, sir. What do we got number 4 on your list?
All right, so my next one is an adaptation of A Christmas Carol. As I mentioned, I like to watch one of those. This one is one of the most depressing and one of the most interesting and untraditional. It's called Carol for Another Christmas from 1964. So this movie is pretty obscure, mostly because it was pretty much impossible to see for about 50 years. After it aired, it was just never available until it aired on TCM about Christmas of 2012. So now it's available on streaming on Max and such. But the pedigree on this thing is kind of astounding. It's directed by Joseph Mankiewicz in his
Mm.
only work that he ever did for television, but it's written by Rod Serling, and that's really the star of the show because if you're a fan of Twilight Zone or other Rod Serling stuff, you kind of know what you're in for. Brilliant dialogue, and really direct, really, uh, not subtle sort of themes. So this one, Sterling Hayden plays the Scrooge character. His name is Daniel Grudge, and he instead of he's visited by the three ghosts, but Daniel Grudge is a isolationist, a really conservative isolationist, and he doesn't want the United States to be involved in any of their countries. And this one is trying to make him see the error of the ways, that all humanity is one, and that everyone, anyone in poverty diminishes other human race. Essentially, it was made with funding by the UN to kind of promote their mission at the time. We got to remember, this is during the Cold War, so there's a lot of tension going on, and there's a lot of paranoia about the nuclear proliferation and everything. So it kind of covers that. The cast is pretty crazy. Aside from Sterling Hayden, there's Ben Gazzara, Robert Shaw. Peter Sellers plays this crazy, like, post-apocalyptic, like, demagogue leader in the future of Christmas. It's wild, but it is a heavy watch. It's very, very serious. So if you want something that's a fun version of this, I would stay away from this version. But it's really, really well made, well directed, well acted, and it's just something that is really underseen.
Is this one available anywhere now?
It's never been on physical media in any legit version. It's only, as far as I can see, available streaming on Max currently. Luckily, the version that is up there it looks really nice, because for a while it was only available in, like, really bad looking quality. And I believe it's the uncut version with the original Henry Mancini score as well. So that's nice.
Wow. Yeah, I might have to watch this one.
Yeah, it's fascinating. If you're not really familiar with that kind of era of television teleplays, then you might find it off-putting because it's very theatrical.
Yeah.
But the way that they do it, the camera is constantly moving, and it kind of feels like they are on an actual stage, and like the part of it will light up and then they'll move into another part, and it flows in a very interesting way. It definitely feels like very dreamlike. So, but like I said, very depressing. And the most depressing thing is, it's sadly, aside from the specific like references to Cold War nations and whatever, it's still pretty relevant at just about kind of how humanity is towards their fellow man.
Very good pick. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check this out on Max, I think. My number 4 is one that I see people just absolutely crap on all the time, and probably the silliest one to have on my list. I am really big on Nicolas Cage, and something about 2000's The Family Man is always very homey for me. I love this movie, and for those that have never seen it, it is akin to some of the other movies where it's Nicolas Cage waking up in like a different life, different version of his life type of story. I grew up with Big, and so Tom Hanks's Big was a big part of my childhood. Watched that way more times than I should have. Never thought it was weird or creepy until I was older. But this movie, Nicolas Cage, of course, is a part of this, super like stockbroker type job. He is driving this fancy car and living this crazy life, and suddenly wakes up to be married to his high school sweetheart, driving a minivan, not having that high stress financial job. And it just goes in a really wholesome direction. And I love Nicolas Cage in this. I think at the time, at least, it was an interesting turn for him to take in his roles. Téa Leoni is also fantastic in this movie. Just one that people are not talking about anymore. I really think this is just not one that people seek out, and probably because the reviews for this one have always been terrible, and I don't love it.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen this one. I mean, I remember when it came out and everything, but it is one that just, like, it doesn't. I never even hear it mentioned, just to even say that it's bad. It just doesn't get mentioned. It's just
Right.
not on anyone's radar at all.
It's a fun choice. It is streaming right now on Peacock, and there's a Blu-ray out that's less than $10. So if you're super into it, you may want to check it out. I see everybody in the comments mentioning Trapped in Paradise. That's another good choice. I would say that one seems to be mentioned more than The Family Man nowadays. It was definitely on my long list.
All right, my next one is Unaccompanied Minors from 2006. This one I don't ever hear anyone talking about, but it's a really fun family movie directed by Paul Feig. This is his second feature. He was still just mostly known for television at the time. Well before he started to like kind of blow up with Bridesmaids and all the other comedies. But it's just a pretty simple kind of story. There's a bunch of kids. They're traveling alone during the holidays. They get snowed in an airport, and they just kind of like bond together, become friends, and have to run away from the security guards and that kind of stuff. It's like a little bit of like Breakfast Club thing where the different people from different socioeconomic walks of life kind of like begin to understand each other. And one of the best things about it is there's just a lot of like really small characters, side characters, like from comedians. Like there's like Jessica Walter is super funny in a role as like a flight attendant for like 2 scenes. Tony Hale's randomly in a scene that's really funny. And they have like Kevin McDonald, Bruce McCullough, and Mark McKinney from Kids in the Hall in just this one little part. Like, so he just brings in all these people for these little parts that kind of pepper it. And also the kids, they're not annoying kids. They feel like
Right.
people. And so like that's one of the things that I think is really refreshing about it. I hate when like family movies or kids movies like kind of pander and don't actually treat the kids like multidimensional kind of people, just
Right.
dealing with the things that kids are dealing with. So it's not on Blu-ray for whatever reason. I hope that changes, but it is on DVD and streaming. So definitely check it out. I don't really understand why more people haven't heard of it.
Yeah, this is one I really liked when it came out too. And I will be completely honest and say I literally feel like I've forgotten about it until you brought it up. Yeah, this movie was great. I feel like this kind of falls in line with The Family Man, where a lot of people just said this movie sucks enough times to where it didn't exist anymore. And I don't get it. I never really understood the
Yeah.
hate on this one. It doesn't deserve that.
No, like you, I randomly saw it when it came out. I was like, oh, this seems interesting. It's got good people involved. It's just a lot better than you would really expect it to be.
Exactly.
It's just like it's funny and it's also really sweet and it's like Christmassy in a way that is, I don't know, it just tugs at my heartstrings in an authentic sort of way. The character development feels really organic. I hate when it's pretty clear that they're just following the normal pattern of like, oh, the character goes from this arc to this to this. This feels like really genuine. Like the writers, the filmmakers really paid attention to like wanting them to be multi-dimensional children, and it's just really fun. And all the adults and all the other people are just silly and entertaining.
Exactly. Yeah, completely agree on all fronts. Uh, my number 3 is going to be pandering a little bit to the Die Hard crowd. It's not Die Hard because obviously that is said every 12 seconds by somebody arguing for ungodly reasons why about it being a Christmas movie. You're not original. Everyone thinks it's a Christmas movie. Cool.
Yeah.
What I do have to say is I feel like Shane Black doesn't get enough credit for making most of his movies set around Christmas. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and Lethal Weapon, I think, are both better Christmas movies than Die Hard.
Wow.
I especially Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I think that it's more of a central plot point that gives just that better vibe to the film itself. And yeah, Shane Black's not a great person. I get that. I know a lot of people hate him. I know that a lot of people are put off by his style of filmmaking and all that other stuff, but um, yeah, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is way more fun than people remember. If you've not seen it in a long time, highly recommend go back and watch it. But also, the original Lethal Weapon, also set on Christmas, great freaking movie. Uh, Started so many of the tropes that we talk about today. Lethal Weapon is made to be this perfect delivery vehicle for those two main characters, and it's just so much fun to go back and watch nowadays, and I get much more of a Christmas enjoyment out of both of those than I do out of Die Hard.
Yeah, I mean, I do appreciate Shane Black's commitment to setting his movies on Christmas. I mean, most of them are at some point set on Christmas or completely set on Christmas.
Yep.
But yeah, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is probably the best example of that because
Yes.
it feels super Christmassy actually, and I really like that. I think it's a super fun movie too. I could definitely understand how it can be off-putting to other people. Um, if I was in the wrong mood, it would be off-putting to me. But since I know what to expect, like I enjoy it. Uh, but the yeah, the dialogue and the characterizations can be not everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah, I get it. And obviously, there's a lot of arguing in the chat already about Die Hard being better and not agreeing with that assessment. And I get it. Some people worship at the throne of Die Hard, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not the same reverence in my life.
I would say I don't. I mean, okay. Die Hard's a Christmas movie. Whatever. We're not going to adjudicate that. Uh, I don't think it's super Christmassy, but Die Hard is a better movie than those other movies to me. It's just like one of the best action movies ever, and obviously it set the template for so many other things to follow
Right.
that. Uh, and I, it's just so rewatchable. Although it does annoy me now that everyone is talking about it in this context. We have to go through this every damn
Right.
year.
Every year.
Also, Die Hard 2 is really fun. I mean, it's like really stupid, but it's super fun. And you have William Sadler and Franco Nero in there just being ridiculously over the top. It's just a good time. So both of those together, that's pretty Christmassy.
I love William Sadler. He does not get enough love as a character actor.
Oh, he's so good in like in anything. Like if I see William Sadler is going to be anything, I'll probably watch it just to see what he's going to do
Yep,
because he's always he's so different in everything that he's in, but somehow it's just so good. Yeah,
exactly.
I'm a big William Sadler fan as well. Absolutely.
All right, sir, we got a couple left.
All right, this is my most obscure one probably,
Ooh.
and that's saying something. So this is The Man in the Santa Claus Suit from 1979. This is a made-for-TV movie, and it feels very much like a made-for-TV movie from 1979, which makes it just utterly charming in my opinion. Um, It's also shot on location in New York City, so you just get to see a bunch of New York City streets and like festivities going on
Nice.
at Christmas time, which is a really cool time capsule to see. Um, it starts Fred Astaire. This is his second to last role, the last one being Ghost Story, but this was made a couple years before that. He plays like 10 or 15 roles throughout the movie. He's kind of like a mysterious figure that's kind of shaping the destiny of these three guys. Basically, it tells the story of three guys that get a Santa Claus suit and like how that kind of transforms their lives on their path. So there's one guy, he's the typical dad that, you know, his career is coming first. He doesn't have enough time for his family. And at Christmas, he's going to be shown the error of his ways. Um, then there's a guy who's a down on his luck restaurateur who, you know, hit the bottle pretty hard. And, you know, he's pretty low. But also randomly, he found a gun that some gangsters used to shoot someone. And so now they're just gangsters after him. This one is a little bit confusing. But he wants to kind of, you know, pull himself out of it. And so he gets the Santa Claus suit, but then he wants to rob a couple. It's a little bit convoluted. And then there's the shy teacher who wants to dress up like Santa to propose to his neighbor because he lacks the confidence to do it on his own, which is a little bit creepy, but it ends up being okay. Anyway, it's a made-for-TV movie, so if you like made-for-TV movies from the classic era of made-for-TV movies, you'll probably enjoy it. It's a sweet, fun, kind of harmless thing. It's only been released on VHS ever, but I think it's on YouTube. So if you really want to watch it, I would say check it out there. I'm sure it doesn't look particularly great, but who knows who has the rights to it at this point.
Before you mentioned the VHS, I was going to make a joke about it coming to 4K, but now I can't.
You never know these days. Some boutique label might pick it up and revitalize it, which I would love. I would buy it immediately. It's just like it's one of those movies that I watch every few years, and I'm like, is this movie really good, or did I just imagine that it was good? And then I watch it, and I'm like, I love this. This is great.
Nice. All right. So I definitely have not seen that one, obviously, with it being the deepest of deep cuts. My
Yeah,
number
this
two.
this one
Go ahead.
this one is a good example of the depth of the Scarecrow video collection. So I crunched some numbers before I came on here, and just for our current holiday sections, we have about 1,500 titles. That's
Wow.
spread across 5 different kind of theme sections, but so that's a lot of stuff. That's a wide variety, and that's not just Christmas. That's like Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, New Year's, a little bit of Thanksgiving in there, but still, it's a lot of stuff. So you get to experience a variety.
Interesting. That's a lot. All
Yeah,
right.
that's why I've seen so many of these things.
I mean, that's great though. You've had so many years with the collection. That's incredible.
Well, I was the one too. Like when I started working with the inventory, I actually was the one that put together the lists because I was like, I'm going to figure out all of the Christmas movies that there are that I can put together and have.
Jeez.
And so like I kind of shepherded that, and it's grown and grown and grown. So I'm aware of all the weird ones because of that.
Well, that was a perfect way to answer this. Sibner is asking, how does the company determine what subgenre each film goes into? Are there votes?
No. Usually it's just decided by the person that's entering it in there, and sometimes it's very difficult to determine. Like if it's easiest if it's by a director that has a section. The kind of overriding thing is there's like a couple hundred, I don't know, maybe 500 directors that have sections, and that's easy to go into them. They directed it, and then other than that, it's kind of broken down by genre, and then it's further broken down. Oh, Comfort and Joy, yeah, that's a great one. Definitely, I've seen that one. That's really fun. Anyway, I don't want to get too into the weeds in that because we could.
That's
go
what we
on
love
all night,
talking about.
But it kind of depends on the person doing a little bit of research to see kind of what the overall feel of it is, and sometimes it's very difficult. Like with horror stuff, we have it divided into like demons, ghosts, stalker, slasher movies, witches. Sometimes things don't fit into that easily. And then there's just kind of like drama, so that's easy. You're like, this seems like a drama. But sometimes it is difficult. That's kind of how it works. We don't have a vote. We do vote on directors. So like we decide, okay, who's a director that doesn't have a section that we think is worthy, and we kind of go through that back and forth and have that conversation. Or if someone has an idea for a specific subsection of something that makes sense, then we'll talk about that. But it's a lot of stuff. I mean, it's like hundreds of things every week, so it would be really hard to kind of discuss each and every one of those.
I don't know if you have this info on the top of your head, but this will be the last question before we continue. Sibner says, I saw a video from Scarecrow that showed you have a list of watchable to don't watch this with family. What is the most unwatchable film with family that you can think of that Scarecrow has?
Oh man, I wish I could remember. I know what your list you're talking about. I can't remember who made that. They just kind of hand drew this list, I think Martyrs is like pretty high on the don't watch with your family, or like a Serbian film. Uh, is that still out there? Yeah, that was funny. That was. I can't remember the context of that. Someone just made that on a whim. That's what kind of happens. Like someone just gets an idea and they just do it, and it becomes another fixture there. But I don't. Yeah, I don't remember the specific. Either of those probably would I wouldn't watch with my family. I don't know, but I wouldn't watch kids with my mom. So
Oops. Yeah, I mean, before this year, I think Inside may have been on my list of underseen Christmas films, but now that Second Sight gave Inside some love, I feel like many more people are talking about that one. And I love Inside.
well, I feel like any of the horror ones, there's already people that the people that would be interested in that are already kind of seeking that out. They already have the impetus to kind of look in that direction. So that's why I kind of kept them off my list too.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have one more horror. I had to put one as an interesting bookend. We'll talk about that in just a moment. My number two is 2015's not very Christmassy Tangerine from Sean Baker. And I really enjoy how much of a non-Christmas feeling Christmas movie this is, because there has been quite a few times where I have not had a normal Christmas. And
Mm-hmm.
this movie, set on Christmas, goes through some really rough times for a handful of characters and just sits well with me. Sean Baker's style of the whole cinema verite, making everything true to life and filming almost in real time with a lot of this, I just something about it just works so perfectly for me. And I really liked some of the characters that we got to know well, but I also really enjoy stories like this where you feel like there's three or four very unconnected stories that somehow all collide at the
Mm-hmm.
exact same point at the end of it. And when you can write it in a way that doesn't feel contrived, it feels like a magic trick just happened before your
Yeah.
eyes. And this one, every single time, just gets to me. And it's one of those wild movies that, because it's so unique, it feels new every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Each time I've rewatched this, I don't feel like I have seen it before. I feel like it's the first time every single time I've watched it. Love Tangerine.
Yeah, that's a good one for the list because it's definitely one that a lot of people wouldn't think of.
Right. Dude says, kind of like To Live and Die in LA, takes place on and around Christmas, but there's not a single holiday decoration in it. Kind of, not really similar movies, but kind of.
Yeah, I always get excited when I discover that something is supposed to take place around Christmas. Uh, or when you see the decorations or something. I just like to see old decorations and stuff, or like when they go into the supermarket and you see like the displays, and I don't know. I find it very fascinating to see throughout time.
Yeah, it's fun. All right, sir. What's the last one on your list?
Okay, my number one is Santa Claus the movie. This movie is amazing. Um, I love this movie, and I've seen it so many times. I feel like I back in the day it was always on cable, maybe HBO, maybe just regular cable. I can't remember because I was pretty young, but it was always on. And I think I taped it. I've seen this movie, I don't even know how many times, but it's just so fun. And I don't think anyone really that many people know about it now. Although it does just get an amazing 4K, which I would highly recommend. So I did revisit this recently because of that. So it's from 1985, and it's from the Sulkans. So, the producers of the Superman movies. They did Superman, then they did Supergirl, and then they did this. And this movie came out, it was a giant, just, it was critical disaster, and it lost a ton of money, but it's just a fun, Christmassy movie
Yeah.
with crazy, awesome analog special effects, and it looks glorious and beautiful in 4K. So it's a little bit of a schizophrenic movie. It starts out and it's kind of like an origin story for Santa Claus, which is awesome. You get to see like, oh, here's Santa. He's a regular guy, and here's how it becomes Santa Claus, and here's how like the different aspects of Santa Claus kind of came into being. And then it kind of morphs into the story of this elf played by Dudley Moore, who like wants to, like has all these ideas and wants to modernize stuff and whatever, but then he feels like Santa doesn't appreciate him, so he leaves, and he hooks up with John Lithgow, who is BZ from BZ Toys, and he's like the most terrible like business head. Like we've seen a lot of terrible corporate executives in movies, but he's the worst of them at all. He's just like aggressively anti-people, and he's just hates everyone and has no ethics at all. But it's played by John Lithgow, so it's obviously going to be amazing.
Right.
So it's just such a weird movie. It's very 80s. John Lithgow is so over the top that it's sort of unbelievable, but it just makes it that much better. It brings it into the state of just like unreality that it needs to be in. It's sort of like there's like an anti-capitalist sort of like anti-corporatism message in it, but then you see scenes where like they go to McDonald's and there's like a bunch of product placement, or they're like drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon, and it's like completely over the top. So it's just a fun movie. I would definitely recommend it. I don't think a lot of people have seen it anymore.
I agree.
Apparently it's big in the UK, big enough to get a 4K, but in the United States, it's just not really well remembered. But like I said, a lot of it is nostalgia for me because I've seen it so many times. And so check it out if you haven't seen it. It's crazy.
I love this comment from Canadian International Pictures. Such a glossy and bloated production, which somehow fits Christmas. It's so accurate.
Exactly. Yeah.
Dude, this is a 1985 movie, and he says, misheard it. Santa Claus' awesome weirdness. Fell asleep on Christmas Eve '86 in the living room watching it. Hyper nostalgia with that one.
Absolutely. It was constantly on. And like I've seen mostly the ending a lot. So I've seen a whole lot of John Lithgow. So I really love that John Lithgow performance. And I mean, John Lithgow as a villain is like great always, no matter what. And this one, he's just like completely unrestrained. It's like almost a cartoon character of how villainous he is, but it's just so delightful and over the top. And then David Huddleston, who plays Santa, is just like such a good Santa. So it like just offsets that in such a good way. I don't know. I think that it's unfairly maligned. I can understand the criticism, but it's also a fun Christmas movie. So, it's just nice to enjoy it.
Well, I'm glad that you went for one that I felt was like a little less obscure, because I'm going for a kind of obvious one for me too. I kind of wanted to bookend mine. Oh, we got a comment. Canadian International Pictures. FYI, if anyone has Mindfield on the shelf, that's a deep cut Christmas movie that Canadian International put out.
Ooh.
Interesting. I don't think I picked up Mindfield. I still need to. Love how the homeless kid doesn't age a day when Santa visits him 2 years apart.
Yeah, and Santa is pretty much just like, you're on your own, kid. You're homeless, but like, I'm not going to help you out. And so he lives an entire year on the streets, apparently. It's very confusing. They kind of gloss over the fact that the kid is homeless and Santa doesn't really care.
Canadian International just released, I think, 2 more Christmas movies too. I can't wait to watch some of those new ones that just got dropped.
Yeah, those look pretty wild. All those like Canadian family films are so fun because they're just crazy and very specific to the time that they were made. So I'm excited that they're doing more of those.
My last one, like I said, I kind of wanted to bookend Anna and the Apocalypse with one that people, for the most they're like choosing to lambast before they've seen it. Um, obviously, obviously, when you think of horror and you think of Christmas, most people are going to go to Black Christmas 1974 as the obvious pick of you should watch this every Christmas. I will stand by the fact that Black Xmas 2006 is a damn good movie and everybody should be watching it. The uncut version specifically, I will say, is a very, very fun movie. It is underseen because just like Anna the Apocalypse, people choose not to watch it simply because it's a remake and they've heard bad things about it. It is good. Black Christmas 2006 is a very good movie. It is supremely well acted. Some of the set pieces are creepy as hell. Like there, it is so hard to describe because there is like a chase scene in a wall, and we're not talking like in a cavern, but like in some of the old like 80s films where there's this passageway. We're talking about there is an actual like between two slabs of drywall chase scene. It is such a fun movie. The coloring is bizarre. The villain is weird and creepy. The setup for the way that everything starts, it feels like it could do very well compared to the first one, and then it just takes it off into a very different direction, and it's still great. um Simner is asking, isn't the only way to get it on Blu-ray as a German media book? They also put out a German standard release now. So yes, it's still a German release, but it is region free, and Orbit does carry it usually. But this movie, completely overlooked. And not only should it be watched, the cast in this movie is way better than you've expected. And if you've only ever seen the first one, which nothing wrong with the first one. I love that movie. It is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I think it is obviously a better movie overall. But Michelle Trachtenberg, I mean, everybody loves her. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Lacey Chabet, I think that's how you say her name. Katie Cassidy's great in this. Um, Ollie Hudson is in this. Uh, this movie, this movie is great. So much fun. I really think people should look at this and give it an actual watch, because so many people, they hear Black Christmas and say the first one's a masterpiece, don't ever watch the sequels or don't ever watch the remakes, and so many people listen to you, they just dismiss it. And
Mhm.
dismissing movies, I hate that aspect. You could love this. You could love this.
Yeah, I feel like this one actually has gotten a little bit redeemed in the last few years. Like more people, maybe it was because the newer remake came out and people were
Yeah.
like, "Oh, that other one wasn't so bad," or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I I saw the first remake in the theater and I completely hated it the first time I saw it. I just, but like I probably wasn't in the right place. You got to not compare it to the original. You got to
Exactly.
not think about it as being the same thing. Um, and so I've subsequently rewatched it. I don't love it, but there's a lot going on in there, and there's definitely a lot to like about it. I think people should give it a chance because, especially the uncut version, because there's some crazy stuff going on. It's just a nutty, weird movie, and stuff goes in directions that you wouldn't really expect or
Yeah.
even want to happen, but it does. And so it's worth watching for that alone, especially thinking of how similar stuff might be made now and be just so standard. This one is just completely crazy. It is weird in retrospect to think of like, how did this get made and released as a mainstream
Right.
thing? Because it's just wild. But so like for that alone, it's worth a watch. But I would agree. I think that it does get unfairly hated for the fact that it is a remake. It's not really a remake though. It
Not at
is and
all.
it isn't. It's not very similar.
No, there's there's very little similar about it. Um, I will give it extra points in my reappraisal for the villain himself. They take some wild swings with Billy in that movie. Just
Yeah.
his visuals, his overall creepiness, his mannerisms. Like you see more of Billy this time, and yeah, it's fun. Everybody needs to
Well,
see this one.
it does the thing that the movies were doing at the time where they're like, we got to give the backstory and stuff.
Hmm.
And normally I don't like that, but this movie is just so just deranged
Yeah,
that like it goes into such weird strange areas that you kind of admire it for the balls that it takes to like go in some of the directions that it does, and definitely only watch the uncut version because it's not nearly as effective if you watch the actual theatrical version, which is probably why like originally seeing it like that, you don't get some of that stuff that kind of pushes it over the edge. I
Right.
think that gets you into the right mindset to take it for what it's trying to do, as opposed to just being more of like a standard remake or something. It's not really interested in telling that story. It's interested in telling a completely different story. So if you can think about it in that way, I mean, it's one of those interesting remakes that it's kind of in some ways helpful to have seen the original, but in other ways not helpful to have seen the original because you you're kind of hanging it onto that and comparing it to the original too much, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But it plays off of the original in interesting ways as well. So
Man, I did not realize this comment from Canadian International. This is Glenn Morgan's follow-up to Willard, and he's not directed any movies since then. He's worked in
wow,
TV, but only Black Christmas. That was the last thing that he did for film.
Willard is the remake. Willard is actually surprisingly a really decent remake as well.
Yep, Willard is great. Oh, and there you go. Glenn Morgan directed a ton of X-Files, probably why it's good. I mean, again, really good movie. I enjoy it. Any that we didn't mention that you want to shout out semi-quickly there, Joel?
No, I think we covered most of the stuff. I mean, probably, but it's been a while, so I'm not. My brain isn't working as well as it used to be.
Zombies Ate My Arm says the Ice Harvest Reindeer Game, Shop Around the Corner, Smoky Mountain Christmas, and All I Want for Christmas. I had 3 more on my list. If one of mine was a duplicate with yours somehow, I was going to talk about Better Watch Out. This is a horror movie that's getting more and more love every year, but I think it's definitely worth the watch because it subverts the hell out of what you think that movie's about for the first half hour. If you've never seen Better Watch Out from 2016, give that one a try. Another one that I think gets reappraised often because it's a classic, but I feel like this generation of physical media fans don't talk about it enough. The Thin Man from 34.
Yeah,
Incredible Christmas movie. One of the best.
Just such a fun, like light, mystery thing, and it does happen to take place at Christmas and everything. But it's just if you haven't seen that as a movie at any point in time, it's worth watching because it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And William Powell and Myrna Loy are just amazing together.
Incredible chemistry.
Yeah.
And then one that, again, this is not a good movie, but it is like beyond nostalgia attached for me. 89's Look Who's Talking. I always forget that that's a Christmas movie, and it's a very weird movie because it's Bruce Willis in a baby's body. Look Who's Talking is not a good movie, but it's a fun one that people don't talk about much anymore. And Kirstie Alley was on top of the world for a few years there.
Yeah, I need to revisit this. Maybe I don't, but I've seen this a lot too, and like I have nostalgic kind of like towards it, but like I kind of fear what if I rewatched it at this point in time, what it would uncover.
Yep.
Because it seems like there's a lot of just underlying disturbing aspects to it that might be like, "Ooh, I can't believe that this is a movie that was like mainstreamly popular and like for families or whatever." But I completely forgot that it was at Christmas, so been a while.
Yeah, I believe there's a scene of the 3 main characters, the baby and John Travolta and Kirstie, all standing in Christmas lights at the very end, if I remember right. Anyways, there's a ton. All that to say, there is a lot of good Christmas and just holiday films that are out there. Just watch movies. Movies are fun. Movies are great. Movies are life. Appreciate them, and yeah, this has been fun. Scarecrow Video. Just wanted to remind everybody that not only is Joel here talking about movies, but here because he is a part of Scarecrow Video. This is their donation portion of their website, and the link for this page is in the description below. There are lots of ways that you can help, including sending physical media, because they take a lot of stuff. If you have questions about what they take, you can email them. There's a link for that. Spreading the word, sharing that donation link that is going across the bottom of the screen right now, finding ways that you can donate. Their employer matches because they are a nonprofit. You can become a member, which Joel mentioned previously that they're working on changing the membership to be more beneficial for those across the country. There's lots of ways to do this. So keep Scarecrow in mind as you are doing all of this and going about your Christmas season. Anything else we want to share, Joel?
No, it's been fun. It's been a good time.
Yeah, this has been incredible. I hope that we can do this again. And everybody, have a good prelude to holiday week. We got one more show before Christmas. And next week, we've got two gents that are going to be coming to us from faraway land. Speaking of this comment, Mr. Tony Meachus and John Matthews from Imprintcast from Australia are going to be live as our guests next Thursday night. Can't wait to hang out with them. And yeah, we'll see you all next Thursday. Links in the description below. You guys are amazing. Love you all. Have a good night.
Thanks for hanging out, everybody.
Thank you for watching The Disconnected. On the way out, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, that you've liked the video, and that you've copied the link to be able to share with someone else that may appreciate this.